rested on them. They were among those registered, but they had not gone out to the tent. And so they prophesied in the camp. And a young man ran and told Moses, Eldad and Medad are prophesying in the camp. And Joshua, son of Nun, the assistant of Moses, one of his chosen men, said, My lord Moses, stop them. But Moses said to them, Are you jealous for my sake? Would that all the Lord's people were prophets, and that the Lord would put his spirit on them.
Thank you, Evan. Our first gospel reading is from Mark. And in Mark, the disciple John comes up to Jesus and says, Teacher, we saw someone casting out demons in your name, and we tried to stop him because he was not following us. But Jesus said, Do not stop him, for no one who does a deed of power in my name will soon afterward be able to speak evil of me. Whoever is not against us is for us. And then these words from John, I have spoken all these things while I am still with you, but God will send you the friend, the advocate. She will come in my name to help you. The friend is the Holy Spirit. She will teach you all things. She will remind you of everything I have said to you. For now, I leave you with my peace.
Let us sing a hymn together. The liturgical folk song, Peace I Leave With You, My Friends, was written by Raymond Robert Repp. Ray Repp has been credited with introducing folk music into Catholic masses in the 1960s.
Shalom, my peace.
this love now all enough, that loneliness is at an end. Rejoice, my friends, although I go, for I will come again. Peace I leave with you, my friends. Shalom, my peace in all you do. Peace I leave with you, my friends. I give to you so you can give to others too.
First, I just need to thank Rhonda for all of the work and all of this music and slides, and what a lot of beautiful memories there. Thanks for making this even harder for me. Well done, you. So here we are. This sermon has been in my head and heart ever since I sent my letter of resignation last April. But it was not written, of course, until after returning from the beautiful celebration that many of us shared and were able to attend yesterday in the park. My gratitude to all who were able to come, and to those who organized it and brought food. And for those who were not able to come and be there in person, please know that you are part of my mental images from that day anyway. As you are each so much a part of Emmanuel, I won't remember who was there and who wasn't. You were all there in my mind. So today's service begins and ends from a place of gratitude. And I might as well begin at the top. I am deeply grateful to God, who in news surprising no one, was right all along. If you missed last week's sermon, you might want to check that one out on YouTube. It's talking about my journey to this place, where I did perhaps hint at an ongoing debate with God for the past 36 years. But here I am saying to you, God was right. I belonged in ministry. Not so much because of what I had to bring to you all, but because of what you have given to me. Through this vocational journey, I have been privileged to share my life with some of the very best people on the planet. People who are selfless, kind, mature, thoughtful, willing to be challenged, authentic, joyful, loving, peacemaking people. And among the very cream of the crop are the folks who gather here at Emmanuel. So before I move on to talking about you, as I promised I would during this last week's sermon, I do need to make this public acknowledgement that God was right. Okay, you all heard me say it. We can move on now. Now we can talk about you. Some of you may be unaware that I got to this church by jumping the queue. Rather than trusting to the system, and my sister just showed up who's kind of in charge of the system, Sorry, Sandy. But rather than trusting to that process, one which involves this huge computer somewhere in the bowels of the American Baptist headquarters and an algorithm that makes potential matches between churches who are looking for a minister and ministers who are looking for churches, instead, I just sent a letter saying, hey, I've heard amazing things about Emmanuel, pick me. That was essentially my letter. And fortunately, you are all the kind of spirited folks who have this sort of on again, off again relationship with rules as well. So this approach was embraced and the rest is history.
I'm here.
Diane, you're unmuted. That happens on Zoom. The voices. I can tell you now that the clincher for me during that weekend of interviews and meeting all of you was Gabriel Tanksley, who was 14 or 15 at the time, who not only has the world's best dimples, but asked the best question during your Q&A interview session. After listening to me do my best to convince you that I was the perfect minister for you, Gabriel said, what will you do if you don't get offered this position? I thought that was a remarkably revealing question, one that I really do recommend that you incorporate into your next round of interviews. In the 5.5 years since, you have absolutely lived up to my expectations of who you were. Each one of you has, in your own unique individual way, shaped who I've become. And that is probably what makes Emmanuel such a remarkable church. In most congregations, in case you haven't had the opportunity to experience multiple congregations, in most of them, there are a handful of folks who, for better or worse, sadly, it's usually for worse, hold the power. They make the decisions. Often, it must be said, they also do most of the work. And pretty much, they set the tone for everything that happens in that church, from worship to the feel of the space as you enter, to an understanding of who is in and who is out. At Emmanuel, everyone is in. Whether you were pretty much born into the church or you walked in last week or this morning onto Zoom, you're in. You are in. There are people who, due to life circumstances, only are able to participate in person on rare occasions. They're in. I think it's actually pretty simple. You all just quite genuinely like each other. And you are all quite honestly ready to like the next person who walks in the door. Come on in, we like you already. It's a remarkably rare quality, even among church folks. Again, I think this is because somehow or other, you have managed to avoid that fatal flaw that so many organizations succumb to, which is this desire for control. When people cling to control, then new people, no matter how much they are welcomed, they are also seen as a threat to that control. And it is seen, it is heard, and it is absolutely felt. Emmanuel, well, you folks don't even make a pretense of being in control. You are one of the most wonderfully out of control groups of people I have ever had the privilege to know. I say that facetiously, but I truly believe that you folks live with a very real sense that only God is in control, and you are happy to leave it that way. Let God be God. It is both humbling and empowering, and I have been so honored to see this embodied throughout my time with you. So now I'm going to earn my pay for this last sermon and spend some time with our scriptures. But before I do, there are two specific things that I want to be sure get said and are understood. First has to do with my fellow staff people, Tom, Rhonda, and Tara. They are the three main reasons that I have been able to serve you as a part-time minister. Aside from simply being supportive and wonderful people, they are all exceptional in their roles, which has allowed me to really just focus my time. So although I don't think anyone here doubts their value, I just want to acknowledge that from the perspective of someone who has worked with a lot of church staff folks over my lifetime, Tara, Tom, Rhonda, you are the A-team. Thank you for that. Secondly, many of you have been through ministry transitions before, but for those who have not, I just want to explain how this works in the American Baptist world. As a minister, early on, I signed a code of ethics. And one of the areas that we commit to as ministers is allowing for healthy changes in leadership. So it is customary for a departing minister to truly leave. This allows the church to prepare for someone new, and it allows the new minister, when he or she shows up, to have the space in which to make themselves at home. This means, just to lay it out there, I will no longer be available for weddings, funerals, or other church events. For the most part, you won't see me that much after today, at least as Leona would say, for a year and a day. She's got it mapped out for you. We are now in the Facebook age, and it's just too complicated for me to figure all of that out because I was friends with lots of you before I even came to this church. I want to still be friends there afterwards, but I will try to remain out of manual conversations as well. So I just wanted to be sure that you all understand this next phase and understand that I will be keeping a low profile because I love you. Okay, so about those scriptures, a quick reminder. First, we heard from Moses. His protege, Joshua, had come running to him, concerned that a couple of guys were preaching in the camp and wanting Moses to put them in their place. Moses, though, responds with this: would that all of God's people were prophets and that God would put his spirit in all of them. A similar story occurs when a few of the disciples witness somebody outside of their circle performing some healing acts. And, like Joshua, they want Jesus to take control of the situation. Like Moses, Jesus responds with just the opposite, saying, don't stop him, for God's sake, don't stop him. For no one who does a deed of power in my name will be able soon afterward to speak evil of me. Whoever is not against us is for us. So both Moses and Jesus have spent a lot of time with God. Lots and lots of time with God. And they are pretty clear about this thing. As people of faith, each of us is called to speak, to heal, and to reveal the Spirit of God, and to encourage those around us to do the same. So if I had to share my main belief on the meaning of life, and it is my last sermon, so I guess that's what I'm supposed to do here. Here we go. It would be that life is about story. It is all story. It's not just what happens, but the story we tell ourselves about what happens. And it's not just my story alone, but how my story and your stories intersect and shift the plot and re-envision the characters and define the next chapters. For me, I am a disciple because the story that Jesus tells is the story that I want to be real. I want that story to be true, and therefore I will live it as though it is. It's the story that makes the most sense of the story that I am living. I believe that to heal the world, each of us must claim our story and then share it in such a way that it encourages others to fully embody their stories. There's so many people I could lift up in this moment whose stories have moved me and made my world better. I'm looking at Michael Marshall's face right now. Your story of the violence that's happening around you, how you are living in and through that, your call to ministry. Kathleen, I have cherished those times in the pulpit when you have invited us into your world, a world that includes so many characters, from buses, from soup kitchens, street corners, dance halls. Jen Lassard, when she speaks of the mystical moments in her childhood tree, a great story. Paul, your whole life story, good grief. That has had such an impact on me, and I cannot wait to go to Amazon and order your book. Connie, just a couple of weeks ago in Bible Reflections, which I again commend to you, sharing the story of little Connie swinging around a flagpole as a kid at camp and the freedom that you felt in your spirit. That image has really stayed with me. I can feel it. Emily Phillips showed up this morning. Her story from my very first church where her dad was minister. And Emily was just this young woman with such internal power and such an internal compass. She made an impression on me then. I continue to hold her story in my heart. Fred Kentner, Fred, whose spirit reaches so deep and so high, and whose story has literally been part of mine since I was 21 and my husband and he started playing in a band together. There's just so many stories, and I will carry all of these stories with me as part of my own forevermore. But I want to share one last story with you. I think it illustrates what I've considered to be really kind of the heart of my own ministry in a nutshell. I think it illustrates how my call has been to help others recognize the power of their own stories. It also reminds me of how much I still have to learn, and I look forward to as others continue to inspire me to claim my own. So it's appropriate that my final story includes my two granddaughters, Leona and Marquis, who are known as Leo and Kiki. So we were all up at the family cottage on Northern Lake Ontario, and it was a very windy day. The waves were awesome. They were a good 3-4 feet high. They were really packing a punch. And I had already spent at least an hour out playing in the lake and was now just sitting on the bench enjoying the scene. Leo and Kiki, who, as you can see, weigh like, 60 pounds, they really couldn't go out into the lake at this kind of a wavy day, but they had wandered down to hang out with me. And I was helping Kiki to find some, cool rocks, while Leo wandered down closer to the water. They both had their life jackets on from before, so I wasn't at all concerned when Leo started inching her way into the lake. We have sort of a flat rock waterfront in front of us, and it goes down in small levels out into the deeper water. So she took a few steps, and then she just would stand and stare out, lost in thought, the water just swirling around her ankles. A few more steps, and then she'd pause again to absorb the scene around her. It was lovely to watch. Eventually, she reached the first drop-off, which was then a few inches deeper, the waves then a bit higher on her tiny little body. Still, she seemed reasonably secure, and I didn't want to disturb her ponderings. Then Kiki, who pretty much follows Leo everywhere, decided that she needed to join in. I wasn't sure how she was actually going to feel about the waves or the undertow, but I took her firmly by the hand and let her lead me out into the water. We joined Leo, and everything was fine for a few moments of getting just soaked by these waves splashing up against us. And then suddenly, a particularly determined whitecap came and just lifted Leo up off her feet, and down she went. Even as she was trying to regain her footing, she swallowed some lake water and her sandals flew off her feet. I could tell she was getting kind of panicked, but I was having trouble reaching her to help while still keeping a firm hand on Kiki. Eventually, I was able to make my way over with Kiki in tow and give Leo a hand so that she could get herself back to a place where she was able to kind of fight through the crashing wave action and stand up, soggy, bedraggled, and upset that her sandals were nowhere to be seen. Thinking quickly, I said, "Leo, this is the best story ever. Just wait until you tell your parents about it." Well, it was like this light coming on inside of her. Immediately, her mind went to work, and she let me lead her and Kiki back to the beach while I swam back out to rescue her sandals. I wrapped the two of them up in their towels and followed as Leona charged across the lawn and up the steps to the door of the cottage where her mother was inside reading. Leo flung open the door, and she declared, "Ma, have I got a story for you?" "Tell me," her mother said. "There I was," she begins. Honestly, for me, that's enough of the story. "There I was." She did go on, peacefully watching the waves, deep in my thoughts, when suddenly, this girl can tell a story. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is how we all need to claim and proclaim our story. There I was. Awesome. Your story matters. It matters to you. It matters to me, to humanity, and to God. So embrace it with everything you've got, and share it with everything you are. It is the best gift that we have to leave with this world. And speaking of gifts, I am following Leo's lead and being bold in sharing with you a song that I recorded yesterday before the picnic. You will see that my hair is still wet. My guitar strings are about 25 years old, and it is my morning voice, but there I was. And here I go.
A gift of song is a gift of love. Though how this is, I cannot say. But who receives a gift of love must send it freely on its way. as I receive. So let me give and live with joy my whole life through. A gift of song is a gift of love, and now I've sung my song for you. A gift of song is a gift of love. It falls to earth, we know not where, and who receives a gift of love. It follows then that she must share as I've received. So let me give and live with joy my whole life through. A gift of song is a gift of love, and now I've sung my song for you, and now I've sung my song for you.
And with that, I leave you in the hands of God, and before then, the hands of Rhonda.